Have we left the U.S. for good, or do we foresee ourselves going back at some point and setting up home again?
Yeah, what's the end game, I guess is the question. Where are we going to return to? Where are we going to stop when this is all over with?
Right. So, when we first started doing our travels, we had a complete plan of what we were going to do. And that was going to be, we were going to travel, we were going to look for that place that we would settle down permanently, set up residency, and that was our plan.
That was our plan. We were going to learn the language, we were going to explore the world, we were going to do everything that you would think about doing as being an expat. Is that still on our agenda moving forward?
Yeah, I would say that all of that really changed quickly.
Changed quick.
Yeah. We were not on the road very long before we changed our plan, realized we did not want to settle in one location. There was too much of the world that we wanted to explore. And by settling down and being an expat somewhere, it limited us way too much of doing that.
Now, there are several reasons that we would return back to the United States and live out our golden years, I guess you could say. But family and friends is the obvious number one reason.
Yeah, and I think that when we were talking about, when he's mentioning those reasons, those reasons have become way more evident as time has gone on through our travels of what and why we would return back to the United States. In the beginning, I don't think we even thought that that was going to be a possibility,
right.
But now very much. So yeah, family and friends, I would say, is probably the key number one thing that we will go back for.
Right, and just the family and friends over the holidays. There are holidays we miss every year that, we don't want to really miss them every year for the rest of our lives.
No.
4th of July is a great example.
Yeah.
Yeah,
we make sure we're home for the key holidays. I mean, this last year we were really home for Christmas. We missed Thanksgiving. This year we'll be home for Thanksgiving. We don't want to miss those dates. There's people in our family that, you don't want to regret anything, I guess is probably the key thing. And, we have kids. I have grandkids, and our parents, and those things have I don't know, the special part of them has become more evident as we've been away longer.
Yeah, Thanksgivings mean more now. Christmases mean more now. All of those holidays. Just maintaining those connections back home mean a lot more than maybe we thought they would.
The next really big one, and I think this is a big one for a lot of people, is healthcare. We have realized that outside of the States, we can find great healthcare. It is affordable. It's actually quite more affordable than it is within the States. But there's something to be said for just going to your doctor, knowing who you need to call, because we're always in a new location. And so it's going to always be someone new that we're dealing with. So I think those just comforts is a big one for me.
We've all experienced it. You go to your family doctor. I used to go to my family Dr. Austin. I would see him once every 5 years, and I'd walk into his office, and he knew everything about me, and I hadn't seen him in years. But it's that family connection that the doctor has with you, your siblings, your parents. There is something to be said for that.
Yeah, I think it's the known against the unknown. When we're in another country, like I said, our care has been great, but it's the unknown. So every time we walk into a situation, we really don't know what to expect.
And then it's not just about us, it's about our family as well. Being near our family in the case something does happen is something that's on our minds all the time anyway. Well, if we're at home, especially in those later years, it might be better for everybody. Okay, currently, we enjoy what we're doing. We're not stopping this anytime soon. We like moving around. We have a lot of places that are on our list that we want to go see.
This is just the end game.
This is the end game. But the stability part of it is something that we do think about maybe 10 years from now. But we do think about it. Having that home base, having that apartment, having whatever it is that we decide to live in. A houseboat would be cool, I think. But yeah, having a place of our own is something that will come into play at some point.
Yeah, I think that that is something for myself, probably maybe more than Brian. I really miss having a place that you call home. You know, we don't get to buy souvenirs.
Right.
We can't see a really cool painting or picture or something and put it, you know, ship it home somewhere. We don't have anywhere to ship it. I mean, I'm sure that one of our family members would love to hang it on their wall.
Yeah.
But, you know, I think that having that, you know, we all know that comfort of going home after a vacation. You climb into your bed, you know, you go into your kitchen, you have all the things that you're comfortable with. We don't have that. It's a mystery every stop that we're at. So I very much look forward to the day when we do have that stability again.
Right, the creature comforts. I said comfort creatures one time, and I got called out on it. Those are little creatures that run around. Not the same thing. The comfort creatures are something that we do miss.
Yeah, and I think that those comforts as you get older, because like we said, we're in no way stopping anytime soon, but as we get older, those comforts are going to be even more so. We're going to really look forward and want those. So now the other area is familiarity. You know, things that we just are familiar with, where you don't have to guess them, you don't have to figure them out. We enjoy that right now, but there is going to come a time.
Yeah, we do enjoy it right now. Just going into a supermarket or a restaurant and trying to figure things out. Right now it's kind of fun, but it is work at times. The language, we haven't had a whole lot of problem with the English being spoken just about everywhere we go, but wouldn't it be nice to not even have to think about it? And the older we get, the more that's going to come into play.
Yeah, and there, you know, you're dealing with different holidays, different customs, different laws.
Yeah.
You know, every place, every country that you're in, there's different rules and regulations, and just not knowing those. So to go back and just have the known around us, not the unknown, will be comforting.
Right, not that anything's any worse or better, just knowing. Now, it doesn't matter where you're from. We all grew up with those conveniences that we just have grown accustomed to. That's one thing that we're always adjusting. For back home, we don't have to make any adjustments. It's just those conveniences that we know.
Yeah, I think that when we are heading home, and this is going to probably sound maybe odd to a lot of people, but one of the things I look forward more than anything is walking into one of the grocery stores that I've gone into for the majority of my life. I know where everything's at, unless they've kind of shifted it around a little bit, but I know the products. You know, if I want to make a meal, my whole cooking thing has gone out the window when we're traveling. I used to really enjoy cooking, and I would spend time finding new recipes. I don't do that when we're on the road. It's really challenging. You know, you can become creative, and I get that, but there's just something about walking in that grocery store and buying all those ingredients. Or Brian loves my lasagna. Well,
Carrie's
I
lasagna.
can make it on the road. It's not going to taste anything like what he's used to it tasting like, because it has specific ingredients.
Right. It's always made with love.
Yeah.
It's always
It will
made
always
with
taste
love.
good,
It
but
always
it's not going to
tastes
taste
good.
the same.
Yes.
Yeah, and then the other thing is the washer and dryer. You know, we have only now, to this point, we've been traveling 3 years. We have only had a dryer in the unit that we've been in one time.
Right.
Loved it. That was so great. I mean, it still took like 2 hours and something to dry a load of clothes, which was weird to me. But just those little conveniences of going. So once again, when we get home, I look forward to washing and drying my clothes. I get in Europe, it's not as much of a thing, and I get the reasoning behind it, but it's one of those things we grew up with, and we're used to it.
And we're not here to say that you don't have dryers in all of Europe. We understand you do, especially the northern part of Europe. They're just as common as they are in the United States, but while we're hanging out and where we've been, they're not as common. When we get home, they'll be as common as your refrigerator.
Yeah, nobody really hangs their clothes to dry where we're from because it rains all the time.
It rains all the time.
Yeah.
Won't
And then
dry.
I think also another thing is just those products, you know, so like going to the grocery store, the things that you like, but just all those things that you buy. You know, when you think through everything that you go buy at whatever store you're going to, you know where to go. You know what store to go to get it. You don't have to go and research every part of it. So yeah, I think just the convenience of that, but also just the ease, not having to worry about it or think about it that much. Now the next area is hobbies and interests. You know, this is something you can absolutely do on the road, but I know for Brian here, he's got some sport teams that he really likes following, and watching those games at 2 o'clock in the morning, 3 o'clock in the morning isn't as much fun. And it's not as much fun to be able to, because you're not really popping open a beer at 3 in the morning.
No.
I don't know.
No, I'm not doing that.
I don't hear him opening it.
That would be ridiculous.
You know, but you're not having those fun get-togethers with friends to watch a game. We look forward to that stuff, and you very much miss out on that when you're on the road.
Yeah, you really do. Now, YouTube has become a hobby. There are other hobbies that you can do while you're out traveling. But if you're into woodworking, if you're into any of those things that you can't take with you, paintings, knitting, mechanics, whatever it might be, well, when you're on the road, you can't do them. When you're back home and you settle in, you can, and it does make life more enjoyable. Those are your hobbies.
They're things you look forward to.
Yeah. Now, this next one's a big one for both of our parents, both sets of our parents, is the community involvement. The church, the neighborhood, you know, the communities that they're all involved with is something that I can see doing in my golden years.
Right, and you know, you have your groups of friends that you get together with. I know my dad gets together with his group of guy friends for coffee each morning, and you know, those are things that you look forward to. You know, it's just one of those routine things that you have. Being involved in, like I said, the church, or volunteering. You know, you can volunteer anywhere that you go in the world, but every place you go to, you're going to have to research it, find the group, go introduce yourself, set it all up. Well, if you're only there for a couple of weeks, that's really a lot of time put in. Yeah. And I think that there's part of the fun of volunteering someplace is that that's also a community that you're part of, as far as it's sometimes the same volunteers, the same group, but you make friends. Yeah, so I think that that's something we absolutely would start doing later on.
Yeah, I think the volunteering at the Boys and Girls Club is something that I would really enjoy doing.
Now the next area, and I think for a lot of people this might be a big one, is pets and animals. You know, I grew up always having animals, and I went through a long phase of not wanting to have any animals, and that's been nice with us doing the house sitting, because I get that little furry friend time while we house sit for people. But there may come a time when we settle down somewhere where I get myself like a really small dog.
A little dog.
A very little dog.
Yeah, we get this question a lot, you know, how do you travel with animals? You can travel with pets, it is possible, but it adds another layer, quite another layer to the whole experience. Not just your accommodations, but your flights, you know, any requirements that you might have to have for paperwork to get into the country that you're going to.
Yeah, vaccinations and everything. There's a lot that goes into it that we've heard from people that have...
we're not experts on it, so don't ask us about it.
Yeah.
But it does add a layer. If you're back home, you can have 5 or 6 animals if you want to.
You can do what you
do
want.
whatever you want.
Yeah, as long as your neighbors don't mind.
Climate and weather. Now, we chase the sun for most of the year. We're usually in a nice climate. We start skirting it a little bit, but for the most part, we're in good weather. Until we go home for Christmas. But that being said, we do like the changes of the seasons. Where we're from, there's drastic change in each season. So we kind of have come to miss that.
Yeah, you know, fall is my favorite season, and I really have missed that for, I think, almost the last 3 years.
Well, because football's starting, right?
Yeah, that's not actually the reason. I love seeing the trees, the color of the leaves, and the leaves falling. Yeah, it's football.
It's football season.
But you know, I think that is something that we have very much realized over the last few years. You know, when we started, it wasn't as big of a deal because you're excited, you're traveling, but then you'll go home and like we just missed fall. It's like, oh, you know, and we'd skirt right into the really crappy weather, which is just rain and dreary. So yeah, I think that that's something we'll very much look forward to, is those changing seasons. Although that comes with mowing a lawn, I guess, if you have a lawn.
It does come with mowing the lawn, but I have a yard care service probably. I'm sure of that, yeah.
Now these things are kind of when this time comes. This is dealing with Medicare and Social Security. Now, some of these things that you can absolutely deal with when you are traveling without any issue. They will follow you. You can get your payment wherever you're at. But you're very limited, and I mean very limited, of how Medicare is going to cover you outside of the country. So, I think that in itself is the ease of that is a nice reason to also just be home and have accessibility to that medical care.
Well, the sense of security. It's not just, you can get it, but wouldn't it be easier if you were back home, especially if you get to that point where you're using it? The security of being back where you belong might be beneficial.
Yeah. Now the next area also is dealing with medical, and that is, as you get older, and I'm saying much older, but even as you get older, if something were to happen and you find yourself in a position where you need, say, that in-home care, that treatment, you need to be in, say, a senior home, or have some kind of senior help, that's a lot easier where we're from because we're familiar with the process. We're familiar with how the program works. I really don't know how you access that outside the country. I'm sure people do it all the time, but it's not something at that point in my life, I'm going to feel like I want to navigate.
Now, what about legal matters? Your will, your estate, things that come into play that would be much easier to deal with at home. Do you leave those things up for your family to do? Or do you take care of them yourself because you're there available to do it?
Yeah, I think handling any of those financial aspects or legal matters, even dealing with any of the finances, when you're trying to deal with your retirement planning and some of those, there's legalities when you're out of country, like transferring certain money or buying certain funds. There's laws about that, so you have to be really careful. And I just think that that's not something we're going to want to navigate, having the access to be able to just go to a lawyer and have any of that stuff done, or be able to go and deal with our financial institution and take care of it without feeling like we could be doing something wrong.
Now, this video was stemmed from you, the viewer, that asks us, what's your end game? How are you going to sustain this? What about when you're 75 years old? What are you going to do? Well, these are the things that we talked about a long time ago, really before we even started this, of what we would be doing. So we just thought we would share it with you, that we do have a plan, we do have an idea of what we're doing, and it's just a matter of doing what we're doing now and worrying about that later.
Yeah, and we totally get the questions because, like we said, we discussed this before we started traveling. We had all these conversations with each other, so we get these are the conversations you're probably having right now.
We have very intelligent viewers.
Yes, we do.
They ask the great questions.
Yeah.
And we just try and provide answers.
Yeah, and so I know that, being able to ask us, like, what did we decide isn't necessarily going to be telling you what to do, but it gives you another idea or what conclusion we came to.
Right.
Yeah. Well, we hope that you enjoyed this video and it just gives you some maybe more talking points to discuss. And if you enjoyed this video, give us a thumbs up. We really appreciate it. It helps our channel out. And hit that subscribe button if you want to see our upcoming content. I thought you were going to do the cheers.
I was about ready. I didn't think you were ready.
Okay.
3, 2, 1. Cheers.
Oh, we usually say we'll catch you next time.
We'll catch you next time.
Cheers.